Hey everyone, so I just recently acquired this trail cam with the goal in mind of setting it up at a timber rattlesnake den. However, it is November now, so all the snakes are hibernating. I will have to wait till April or May of next year to set it up at one of my favorite dens. In the meantime, this gives me the fall and winter months to practice with this. So for the last few weeks that I've had it, I've set it up just beyond our side yard where it meets the edge of the woods here, and about 20 feet from our compost pile. So I thought it was a good area for some wildlife traffic. And in fact, I have been pleasantly surprised the amount of wildlife I have captured on it thus far. We will begin with this adorable pair of opossums. Here is a very well-fed raccoon. Now this coyote here was definitely an animal I was hoping the camera would capture. This other canine, a red fox, only makes a brief cameo. These little critters are mice, presumably deer mice. Here is a cottontail out and about after a rare October snow, soon followed by this white-tailed deer. The most exciting capture so far was this bobcat, one of my favorite local mammals. Now the only footage captured during the daylight hours were plenty of these guys, turkeys, and a blue jay. So tomorrow we are going to set this up at one of my favorite local Massachusetts rivers. And I think there we're going to get more diversity of wildlife, and some of that will be captured during the daylight hours for better quality footage. And I think I'm going to leave it there for a few weeks, maybe upwards of a month. But anyways, we're going to check back tomorrow as we find a spot to set this up along the river. So I wasn't able to make it to the river for several days. And unfortunately, the day I could, it was cold and rainy. But I braved the elements and set up the camera in what looked like a good spot a short distance from the riverbank. And since this was not in the relative safety of my backyard, I used a locking cable to reduce the chances of theft. So I couldn't resist and ordered a second trail cam a few days later, and then set it up on the opposite side of the river. And this recently fallen hemlock tree allowed easy access across. About a week after setting up this second camera, I succumbed to an impulse buy, which resulted in a third camera. This one I set up a couple hundred feet from the second camera, same side of the river, but closer to the water. Okay, so over the next few weeks, I checked up on the cameras, sometimes even at night, swapping out SD cards and saving any noteworthy footage captured. Occasionally, I moved the cameras around a bit to change up the background. Visiting the river repeatedly offered me the chance to also observe a local population of wood turtles, which at this time of the year are hibernating. Alright, so after a month out along the river, I felt as though the cameras had captured enough wildlife worth sharing. Let's begin with some of the same animals that were caught on camera in my backyard, such as this cottontail and numerous captures of opossums. Now I thought I was lucky getting footage of a bobcat in my backyard, but as you can see, luck followed me to the river, and not just once. I was in the area checking out this camera only a couple of hours before, so it looks as though this cat is actually sniffing out my recent scent. A raccoon after the flood. More on the flood in a little bit. Here is the obligatory gray squirrel. And similar to my backyard, I captured a lot of deer or white-footed mice. Occasionally, I did put out sardines, hoping to attract some more interesting wildlife, but it was these little rascals that ended up stealing most of the fish bounty. Watch these two have a quick wrestling match. It was this lonely mouse here that inadvertently attracted a new animal for the camera to capture. Wait for it. So you just watched a screech owl missing its mouse prey. Here it is in slow motion. I suspect the owl gave itself away when the branch it launched itself from caused too much movement, alerting the mouse and giving it the split second it needed to avoid the owl's talons. Moving on to other new animals, here is a fox, but not the more common red species. This is a gray fox. This pair of cardinals was a neat surprise, and except for the gray squirrel and, well, a dog, they were the only animals captured during daylight hours. Here I am getting frustrated trying to unlock a frozen padlock from one of the cameras. Okay, so from this low point to the most exciting, check out what one of the cameras captured here. 3 vivacious river otters. River otters were a top target of mine, and I couldn't be more pleased with this footage. On to the flood I mentioned earlier. This footage of me walking away was taken on December 23, and this was captured Christmas night, after a copious amount of rain fell that day, and in combination with melting snow, resulted in the river overflowing its banks. This beaver, in fact, is waiting right over the spot where the owl tried to get that mouse. These raccoons showed up after the water started to recede. So I was curious if any mice survived in the immediate area, but I guess this proves that some did. Thanks for joining me, and I highly recommend investing in a trail camera, or 2, or 3, or 4. My next goal is to get some footage of Massachusetts snowshoe hares, a rare animal in the state, so please check back later if this is something you might be interested in.